I felt the pain. Jordan felt the pain. We saw people feeling the pain. And we were like, let's help these students. Let's solve this problem. Let's help these students. Let's make it happen. And so UniTru has always been and will always be based on just helping as many. Like, I want to help every student, Jordan, and I want to help every student in the world.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Loco LifeCast. Today, we got two very, very interesting guests. Boy Kane's going to introduce him. He knows him real well.
Yeah, so today we got Jordan and my boy Eric from Penn State. All three of us were CA majors. We were studying entrepreneurship. We actually had a class together where we ran our businesses together. We can get a little bit into that later on to the podcast. But through that class, they started a company called UniTru, where they help international students learn about colleges in America. And UniTru also offers other services that they can talk about. And they came together. They were both running separate companies, but they realized together that they can make something bigger. So today we're going to talk about collaboration, a bunch of big topics. So if you guys can just talk a little bit about yourselves and how you guys started UniTru.
For sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having us. Obviously, it's a big honor to be on the LocoCast. Absolutely. The mission you guys are on is a beautiful one, and I've been following along for a while, so it's an honor to be here. But like Kane said, my name is Eric Olah-Reicken. I, with Jordan, I'm starting UniTru. And I guess before we talk about how it all started, whatever, I guess I'll let Jordan introduce himself as well. I don't want to jump too quickly into it.
Hey guys, my name is Jordan again. Also met my nickname for him is Loco. So met my brother back in, as you mentioned, in the class over at Penn State, and we've created a relationship. If you guys want to find me on the Instagram as well, I think that video is still there. So if you go on there, comment, and maybe I'll send you $5. Who knows? We'll find out.
Yeah, you gotta find the video of Jordan.
But yeah, I'm originally from Cameroon, grew up in Dubai and in Senegal, went to Penn State, and now I'm working in New York City. So super excited again to reconnect with my brothers and talk a little bit about UniTru, talk about collaboration, as you mentioned, and any other topic he's interested in. So Eric, now go ahead, tell the story.
Yeah. So basically how it all started, like Ken was saying before, there was a class at Penn State run by Dr. Miller. Shout out Dr. Miller. She's amazing. But basically the idea of the class where you get a little bit of money and get to start a business. And so I joined the class my senior year. And, obviously these guys were in it as well. But basically what I was working on at the time was called UniTour at the time. And it was an in-person tour service. And the idea was that we would help people who wanted tours of Penn State get an honest perspective, right? So instead of just getting the Penn State tour and hearing the sales pitch that they give you, we would tell you what it's really like and give you that unfiltered perspective. So started the class with that business, was doing that for about a semester, just basically giving in-person tours once in a while, wasn't doing too well, and was kind of reaching a wall, like kind of hitting the wall at the end of the fall semester. We didn't have too much traction. I wasn't feeling the energy as much. It was my senior year. I had a bunch of other stuff going on. I was just trying to enjoy my last amount of time as a college student. And it was actually, it was winter break going into spring semester of my senior year, of all of our senior years. And I had like three different things that I was deciding upon. I was like, we can only do two of these. So kind of deciding between those. And then what happened was I decided to, I was choosing between the business, between UniTour, between a couple other things we're working on. And I was actually going to stop UniTour. Like I was ready to quit. I was ready to be over with it. And what happened was, I actually went to drop the class. I pressed the button to drop the class and it was like, error. Like you can't drop the class. You needed to graduate. And so I was like, all right, whatever. I guess I'll keep doing this. The first week of the next semester, I'm giving a presentation on the business, kind of just sleepwalking through it. And this one kid just keeps asking question after question about the business. And eventually he's like, hey, let's just talk after class. I was like, all right, whatever. And so he came up to me and he introduced himself. He's like, hey, my name is Jordan. And I'll let him take over from here.
Yeah. So then I introduced myself to him. All the questions that I had, I was like, yo, we might as well, talk about it, actually find some time to be able to chat. And so I was supposed to have my actual business law class right afterwards. We ended up talking for 3 hours and I explained to him my perspective, right? My perspective as an international student, doing the international baccalaureate, being able to apply to the US, Canada, UK, et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't have the time. I had the resources, but I didn't have the time in order to go and visit all these universities, especially not knowing where you're going to go to. And so I was like, if we take the exact same concept, having that unfilteredness, having that unaffiliation from any university, but then we turn it into a virtual service where people from the comfort of their home can have access to understanding universities all around the world with their parents, then we'd be saving them so much money and actually be impacting people. And then, yeah, so we based them off of, the background, so where they're from, the languages they speak, the major that they're studying, the characteristics that they have, and then the things that they're involved in on campus. And students can go on our platform in order to select whoever they want to speak to, in order to get an unfiltered perspective about where they're potentially going to spend the next 4 years of their life. And that's UniTru.
Yeah.
First of all, guys, I just have to say that I think this is like such an awesome concept. Even from like the high school that I went to, I recall like a lot of people from my class, like a lot of people transferred, I would say. So I think a lot of that has to do with like, the perspective and really understanding like, what a good fit for you is. I've always had like such a problem with the school system, 4 years, they pretty much make decisions for you. And they're like, all right, now you got to make this big decision for yourself. And, they've never even asked you what you want for lunch or something like that. So first of all, I think this is awesome. Jordan, this question is directly towards you. And I guess a little bit more for Eric as well. But Eric, you talked about how you're like on the cusp of, kind of not wanting to do UniTru anymore. And you said you were kind of like sleepwalking through your presentation, just like having somebody like Jordan ask all those questions. And then Jordan, what was it like for you being somebody who had gone through exactly what Eric was talking about? And you're sitting in a class and you hear somebody talking about it, you're like, whoa, like this like really connects with me.
For sure. I think that's a phenomenal question. What's interesting enough is that, but obviously to be in that class, I had to have a business. So I had already been through 3 ventures before UniTru, right? And so I feel like if I had never gone through any of those processes, if Eric was in that class giving me that presentation, I would have kind of like stayed quiet, or at least I wouldn't have known what questions to ask, right? Because going through that process allows you to understand what questions to ask. And I think that sometimes you just need one other person to tell you that they believe in your idea. Like Eric, I didn't need to tell him that I believe in the idea. He saw it from the way that I was describing the pain that I went through when I was going to university. Brother, let me put something in your mind, right? I went to school in Dubai and in Senegal, where the weather does not go below 80 degrees throughout the entire year. And then I end up in the middle of Pennsylvania. Something went wrong, right? And so and what went wrong is that when we're thinking about deciding to go to university, we're brainwashed with these ideas of like ranking and prestige and like, oh, everybody knows the Penn State name, so you automatically, it's easy, and all those things are so true, but they're like a percentage of what you actually.
Yeah, they're like really small.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's like even if you go look up online like a college video, it's just like a Penn State generated tour guide. Like there's like no real experience.
So, yeah, definitely.
Like you should like really search on Instagram hashtags to find out what it's actually like to be a student.
Yeah. And they want your money, right? So they're gonna.
Yeah, they want your money.
They get a lot of it too. Yeah, something I want to add to that is something that it's hard to understand it until it happens, but it's like Jordan said, the importance of people believing in your idea, but not even beyond that, the importance of having somebody by your side while you're going through this whole process, because it's a grueling process. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of times where you get no traction and you're not feeling any energy and you kind of have to just make it up. You kind of have to just convince yourself that there's a future for you, to convince yourself that there's something going on. And because, it takes a long time to make money. It takes a long time to get other people to believe in you. And all of a sudden, when the money comes or the traction comes, and all of a sudden everybody's your best friend. You know what I mean? So it's like,
everybody believes you. Everyone said, bro, I believed you from the beginning.
Yeah, exactly, right?
They're sneak this and you're like, what is that guy doing? Why is he doing that? Especially when you're like, I would say like entrepreneurship is definitely not for the weak. Like I know like people go on TikTok, they're like, oh yeah, I'm about to just drop ship. I'm about to do this. I'm about to do this. Wholesale houses. I'm about to be rich. But it really takes years of failing and like really developing that skill before you can even do anything. Like, especially because like, even if you look at the average like successful like entrepreneur, they're usually like in their 30s or 40s, but they've been doing it for 10 years in their 20s, and then all that skill finally compounded.
Yeah. And you know why it takes so long as well is that you guys know, right? Is that when you first start a business and something works, you make some good money, right? And then
you make some
Yeah, so you make some good money and then it stops, right? And it's like, fuck, what do I wait? Am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah, you said it has cycles. Yeah.
and then I'm like, fuck, like, what do I do now, right? And so it's even once you do make the money, it's about, okay, how is it not, how can we make it so that we're not just making money in June and July and September and in February, right? How can we make this exactly? How can we actually make this consistent? How can we figure out a way that like we're bringing in on average X amount of dollars on a monthly basis, right? And so it's like the battle just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, and you just have to remain consistent. And that's why I think, like as Eric said, having somebody right by your side going through the same struggles. That's also like Eric and I started off. Our relationship started off as business partners. But that's my brother, yo. Like he knows things about me that nobody else. Like there's nobody else that I talk to more than him on a daily basis. You know, and like things like that is also so important. It's not only the person
that's important too.
Yeah, exactly. It's who's by your side as well. Not only having somebody there, but who is by your side as well.
Speaking to like the importance of like partnerships, and I know it's like it's not always good. So how do you guys get through like the tough times, like getting through like not making money, arguing over a certain point? Because I know me and Xavier, we argue a lot over like certain prices and certain things, but we still get through it. But just tell us a little bit about the process if people are looking for partners in their business.
Yeah, Jordan and I never argue. Actually, it's we've never disagreed on anything. No, it's like we disagree on probably everything. I would say, like I think every single time there's a decision to make, we like one of us gives an idea and then the other one disagrees. Whether they actually disagree or not, it's always like showing you why, like trying to poke holes in your idea, right? Because you could like there's especially like the way I kind of operate. I like every time I come up with a new idea, I think it's like the one. It's like I get very passionate about it, and like Jordan will like poke holes in it until it's like, okay, now it's proven wrong. But when he can't poke a hole in it, that's a good fucking idea. You know what I mean? So it's like that process is super productive for like make sure you're not wasting time on anything. But also sometimes, if when you're passionate about something, you're gonna feel some type of way when someone disagrees with you, right? And so because Jordan and I are both so passionate and care so much about UniTru, there's definitely times when we like are upset with each other or mad at each other or whatever. And I think that shows that we care, right? If you don't care enough to fight and to genuinely not fight, but like disagree with intensity, I guess you could say, like genuinely like get to the point where you're like taking
like you're getting
then you probably don't care enough about the business, which is fine. But it's like that's just like a note. And then what we do is it's just it's the thing you hear over and over again. It's kind of the cliche, but it's what it is. It's just communication. Right. You just got to be honest. Right. You got to and like brutal communication. Like if you're worried about your co-founder, your buddy, or whoever it is, about how they're going to take something, then you're probably not, a good pair. Like you just have to tell them exactly how you feel and then talk it through. And that's not easy to do. Like Jordan and I are like, there was a long amount of time where we didn't communicate that well. And then we started, because we didn't know each other. Right. And then we started to communicate better and better. And now we're great at it. But hopefully in 6 months, we look back and we're like, damn, we were terrible at communicating. You know what I mean? You get better and better at it as you get more confident about it and comfortable. But long story short, if you're passionate about something, you're going to disagree a lot. And what you got to do is you just got to talk it out, be honest, communicate, completely transparently, and then kiss and make up and move on. That's all it is.
Especially, and just like something very small, because I have like everything that Eric said verbatim is what you would have gotten from me, right? The one little thing that I would add as well is have the ability and have the courage to literally, when you think something, when you feel something, just say it in that moment right then and time, because it does nobody a service, not yourself and not your co-founder, by holding it in, right? Because the more and more that you hold it in, the next time that you're actually going to voice your opinion, you're going to be voicing your opinion about what happened today, what happened a week ago, what happened 2 weeks ago, what happened months ago, and you're like, okay, where the fuck is all this animosity coming from, right? But it's like when it just happens in chunks, and now we know how to communicate with each other. We know how each of us react. We know when it's like, let's not even talk about this shit right now. Let's just cool off for a second. And then even when we cool off, we're like, that shit was bullshit. Let's just keep going. So it's just knowing each other, and it takes time. It always takes time as well. It's not going to happen perfectly off rip. Yeah.
And to add one short little thing, it's like, that's something I'm not good at, or I wasn't good at, and I'm working on. And the beautiful thing about Jordan and I's like relationship is that he could tell if I'm feeling some type of way, and he'll call it out. He'll be like, I can tell you're upset. Like, what's the problem? And like that, like, because once it always seems like it's gonna be worse how they're gonna take it or whatever in your head, and then once you say it out loud, you're fine. You know what I mean? But that's like, you got to find yourself a partner like that who will call you out, and like we'll both call each other out, and it's, you know, it works really well.
And then one last thing as well is that figure your partner out. Like, truly get to understand your partner, what works with them, how they like to receive feedback, how they like to be communicated to in X, Y, and Z, because it makes everything so much easier. Like, this is a relationship, you know. We're trying to build, I'll say right now, we're trying to build $1 billion company, right? And there's no way that you do that without like actually knowing your partner. So take some time for that to be the case as well, and spend time together outside of, you know, just focusing on the company as well. Naturally, as for Eric and I, it always comes up regardless, but you know, we love each other as humans first, and so that's all that matters. That was a lot.
You did. They definitely learned a lot about how to strengthen their partnership.
Yeah, there were no holes in that at all.
I have another question. We were talking about like how hard it is to make money like starting a business. Can you talk about like the process of you guys making your first dollar, and like, or how did you know that this idea was valuable?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. That's my favorite question you could ask. I love sales. I'm like very passionate about sales. And I'm very passionate about helping people, and that's what I think sales is. And I think when it comes to UniTru, something like the way we made our money was through a process that everyone talks about. If you study entrepreneurship, if you've looked up anything about entrepreneurship, everyone talks about it. And I don't want to speak for everyone, but I'll speak for myself. I always overlooked it. I thought it was something that everyone talks about, but you don't actually have to do it. It's not that important, whatever. But customer discovery, like I can't, like our entire, for some context, we were doing.
Dang it, bro. Customer discovery is like what you have to do first, or you just gotta keep going into it.
Dude, but no, for real though, because it's something that everyone talks about it, but it's not sexy, right? It's not sexy. It's not, I won't say it's not fun because I love it. Some people might not find it. I didn't find it fun before I like understood the value of it. And we were doing B2C for a while, right? So we were selling directly to high school students. And we were getting a little bit of traction. We get a sale here or there. We DM, you know, a bajillion kids every day and just try and get them to buy something. We realized that wasn't really, we got a couple sales here and there. But I don't want to focus on that stuff because it's not as interesting. I would say when it really got fun was when we switched to B2B. And so for us, what B2B looks like is selling bulk deals to high schools and to independent college consultants. They're called IECs, independent educational consultants. And so basically what a package looks like from us is that we sell a high school or an IEC a bulk deal of tours, right? And so that school, I'll just call them schools first, that school then gets to give those tours to their students for free. And so the beauty of that is that we're able to help a lot more students and build relationships. And there's a new crop of students every year instead of the individual students who just go off to college and then they, you know, don't need UniTru anymore. But so when we decided we wanted to sell to high schools, the exact process where we're like, all right, we want to sell to high schools. We're not high schools. We're not high school counselors. We don't know what they want. Let's ask them. And so we basically, for 4, 5, 6 months, something like that, all we did all day was cold call high school college counselors. And just over like 7 hours, 8 hours a day, like 9 hours, whatever, like any minute that college counselors were in, we'd just be calling. Just smile and dial and just call these counselors. And they'd pick up. And basically what we would say is like, hey, you know, my name is Eric. I just graduated from Penn State. I know it's kind of out of the blue. I'll be super brief. You know, basically I studied entrepreneurship while I was in school, and I'm now starting a business looking to help high school students who are in the college journey. I'm not trying to sell you anything, but if you have 5 minutes tomorrow, I'd love to ask you a couple questions to learn from your experience as an expert. And we would get a good amount of them to say yes. And then we would basically hop in these calls with them and ask them what the hardest part of their job is, what they're doing to solve it now, and why that's not working. And the important caveat to all this is that they had no idea what UniTru is, what we were doing, or any of that kind of stuff. And so we just did this over and over again to the point where it was like meeting every day, like just dozens and dozens of meetings a week, cold calls throughout the rest of the day. And we learned so much about college counselors to the point where now it's like, I know these motherfuckers so well and I love them because they're amazing people and they're really cool. I don't mean to call them motherfuckers. I use that term as a term of endearment. Like I respect them. I love what they do. And I understand them so much better now because I've been able to spend so much time with them and talk to them and meet them and go to conferences and all this kind of stuff. And then what happens is you learn about them, you learn what their pain is, you learn what their problems are, and you're able to explain your product in a better way, because the way that we were explaining the product initially was in a way that would solve our problems. But the college counselors have different problems than us, right? And so once we learned what their problems were, we were able to explain the product to them in a way that made sense to them and that would be advantageous to them because we understood their problems. And so that was really when the switch happened. Like that's when we started to really gain traction and get high schools to come on board and biannual memberships and all that kind of stuff. That was the journey to dollar number one, at least, but B2B dollar number one is just brute force. As many cold calls as you could fit in a day and as many meetings as you could fit in a day. Ask them what their problem is, explain how you're solving it, and just keep doing it until someone buys it. It's a numbers game, you know? So that was the process. And we still do it to this day. We continue to do it because it works.
And we actually now have people that are also going to be making the calls for us. So we're trying to just continuously automate that process as well. So because none of this shit can be built without a team, you know? So that's...
Did you guys have students calling for you guys?
Yeah.
They were, not that it's your story, but at Penn State, they have this, I don't know what it's called, but guys know Justin Lisner?
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about, this program where if you find CN students and you get them an internship, Penn State will give them $1,500. You guys use that too?
Yeah, that's Jordan. I don't know if that's how Alan Bijoy, shout out Alan Bijoy, shout out Martin Delgado, shout out Sally Ka, shout out Anuj Mohanty, the team, the crew. They've been with us for a year just because they believed in the dream. But Alan Bijoy came on board. He's a Penn State student. He's a senior now. He came on as that was the program we used. And that was great because it allowed us to have someone else to come on board, someone who believed in the vision. But yeah, college resources are crazy. There's so many resources.
Yeah, that's how I was telling people, don't skip on college, especially if you want to be an entrepreneur, because they give you so many resources. Even me, knowing you guys and other people in my class.
I really like-minded people for real.
Yep.
So I want to know, how did you even stumble upon this? Jordan, I naturally see how you came upon this, but Eric, how did you come across this exact problem and kind of the development of? I know a lot of young people when they start businesses typically start with a product, and so you developing a service, that's
Yeah, it's interesting because there's two Jordan sees it through a different view than I see. International student perspective, I have the domestic student perspective, which is a huge advantage to us because we're able to understand. It's like having some built-in customer discovery for both perspectives. From my perspective, basically the story of how it all started was I was studying for an exam in the student union building at Penn State. It's called the Hub, obviously, as you guys know, but for the non-Penn State people, it was just like the student union building. And I'm from New Jersey, but I'm a big Yankees fan. Shout out Go Yanks. I was rocking my Yankees hat, and this kid came up to me and was like, "Hey, are you from New York?" I was like, "No, but what's up?" And he's like, "Well, I'm here for an accepted students day. I've been here all day. I've been on the tour. I've been talking to admissions counselors, all this kind of stuff, and I just can't get an honest perspective of what it's really like to. Could I just talk to you?" I was like, "Dude, of course. I'm studying for an exam. I'm happy to take a break." So he sits down. We talk for about an hour. I'm talking about academic, social life, involvement, everything, all the stuff that I wish I had known as a freshman, right, or a senior in high school going through the process. He actually went to Penn State. He's a junior probably now, or a senior. Shout out Elliot. And we stayed in touch, all that kind of stuff. Fast forward later that week, a dad comes up to me. He says, "Hey, are you a student here?" I'm like, "Yeah." Whoa, yeah. What's going on? What's going on this week? And he's like, "Well, I'm here with my daughter for an accepted students day. And I want to ask you honestly, man to man, what's the social life like? Will she be safe?" I was like, "That's an incredibly valid question. You're a great dad." And I told him, I was like, "Listen, it's there, but if you're responsible and you take care of yourself, you'll be fine." But I get halfway through answering that and I realized, I'm not a woman. I don't know what it's like to be a woman on a college campus. I hope that my experience would be accurate to hers, but I can't guarantee that. I told him, I was like, "Listen, you should really be talking to a woman and get their perspective." And so kind of realizing that if students are willing to go through the social pain of interacting with a stranger, the information that I had as a current student must be pretty valuable to them and they must not have access to it. So I was just kind of thinking about this idea as a problem that could be solved. I knew about the class that we were all in at the time, and I wanted to have an idea to start a business to get into that class. So I was thinking about that. And then, I needed a part-time job at the time. So I did high school tours in high school. So maybe I'll do tours for Penn State. So I went to the office, the admissions office. And I was like, hey guys, like I'd like to be a tour guide. They're like, okay, you do this, this, and that, blah, 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 blah. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, so how much you get paid? And they're like, no, like it's for the love of the school. Like you don't get paid. And I think they do pay them now, I'm pretty sure. But at the time they weren't. And I was like, listen, I'm super busy. I can't do a non-paid part-time job. And so it all kind of collided at once. It's crazy because I remember the moment very vividly. I was in front of Old Main. I was walking the diagonal across Old Main. And it just all hit me at once. I'm like, okay, there's a legitimate need here. I know how to do this. I used to do this, but the college won't pay me. It would be even more valuable if I did it because I can give the honest, unfiltered perspective. Like, why don't I just do these tours by myself and just charge people for them? And so that's how it all kind of collided and it became, the in-person version of UniTru. And then fast forward a semester in, met Jordan. He explained his perspective and the international perspective and not being able to visit these schools and not knowing that it was going to snow. I've never seen Jordan wear shorts. Like this dude does not, like it's not. And so that's how, the original idea and everything, and then got Jordan's perspective from the virtual things. And that's why it's so, that's why I love UniTru so much, because it's not just, it's a mixed match of a bunch of different things that happen through personal experience and real life things. And it's not like we saw an opportunity in a market that no one was taking advantage of. It was like, no, like I felt the pain. Jordan felt the pain. We saw people feeling the pain. And we were like, let's help these students. Let's solve this problem. Let's help these students. Let's make it happen. And so UniTru has always been and will always be based on just helping as many, like I want to help every student, Jordan, and I want to help every student in the world. That's the goal, right? And so it makes me very happy and excited because we're starting to be able to do that more and more and be able to help those students. And I guess that's I can keep yapping forever, but that's the
I'll just to kind of like top it off to what Eric is talking about. Like when we talk about like helping students, like we're not fucking around, right? Like even to the point where we have this new scholarship that we're putting out to give money back to the students. So with all these different schools, long story short, essentially all these different schools that have bought tour packages from us, every single time that one is used, it will count for like a ticket for that school. And then we'll pick a school at random for them to decide, after giving them a description of what we want a UniTru student to be. They will receive the UniTru scholarship. But it's not only going to happen once a year, it'll happen multiple times a year. The goal is to get to 4 times a year. And then we will give them, there'll be a scholarship recipient there'll be a UniTru scholarship recipient, and they will have money that will go towards their first year at school. And then obviously also have something on the website where we can keep track of everybody that's received the scholarship over the course of time as well.
Yeah, so Jordan, real quick also, I know earlier you mentioned you had 3 other businesses prior to UniTru. Can you elaborate on some of those and that experiences and whether you want to get into what industry it was or like what lessons you learned? I want to hear some more about that.
Yeah, for sure. So the first one, again, as most of us have semi-tried out, especially people that like are getting into business too, is clothing, right? I think clothing is a great business to get into because clothing is something where it's like, it's trying to convince somebody why you should buy my hoodie over somebody else's hoodie, right? Because regardless, you're going to need to wear clothes and there's so many brands out there. But if you can really convince somebody to rock your brand, that means that they fuck with, local Lyfe. Like that's a concept. It's a vision. It's a brand. It's a feeling. It's an environment. You know what I mean? And that's why people wear your clothing, right? Yeah, they fuck with both of you, cool. But no, like if it's an ugly piece of clothing, I don't care how much I like you, I'm not wearing it, right? Like straight up. So clothing was the first one. I had a company called Third Cultured, which I still but it's something that like I kind of put on the back burner. And essentially it was just trying to like group and create a community out of like third culture people from different places, kind of like myself, etc. And we also had like a podcast that went with it. There was this tournament that we used to do growing up where international schools in West Africa would play soccer, football, basketball, volleyball, swimming against each other. And so I was able to get the contract to sell the tournament shirts for every single one of those tournaments, which are like 18 to 22 tournaments throughout the entire year, and maybe have like 300 students coming out every single tournament, right? So that was fantastic. That was honestly a cash cow while I was in college. But I didn't have that much passion about it, especially like when work started coming about too, kind of focusing on like which ones you want to focus on. So that was one of them. The other one was a company called Snag 'em Lighters, and Snag 'em Lighters is, for me, I'm obsessed with artwork, I think we can get the second one that I'm trying to hint at. And the third one is that I love having conversations with people, right? And so for me, I was like, how is it possible? Like, how can we group all these three things together? And the first part of that is I noticed that, say, for example, I'm an up and coming artist and I want to make music. If I want all three of you to listen to it, all I got to do is send it to you, right? But when it comes to artwork, I can send you a photo of this art that I just made. You're going to look at it, then you're never going to look at it again, right? Whereas music, you add to your playlist, you listen to, etc., etc. So for me, I was like, okay, why don't we take local artists? And I also used to make art, but that's a whole other life. But why don't we take local artists, put their artwork on a lighter, and now also have a lighter with a QR code on it. And once you scan the QR code, there are new questions that come out every single day. So once you were while you were enjoying a smoke with your friends or whatever the case is, maybe you're on a date, whatever the case might be, right? You had a lighter that was able to give you new questions to talk about every single day. So now we're using the device that distracts us in order to actually create conversations and meaningful conversations too. And every single one of the lighters too had new questions that were coming out every single day, and they were all different. So that was really nice. So if you had 2 lighters, then you could have 2 questions a day, etc., whatever the case might be. On Fridays, it was 5 questions because it's the 5th day of the week. And then, the only reason why I stopped that for the time being is because I know that it works. We got the scans. We were able to prove that. And I think the scans is honestly the biggest part of the business. I'm just too lazy to go to every single corner store and try to convince them to put my lighters in their store. I know it works.
Yeah.
If you bring me somebody who's the head of distribution for 7-Eleven, for Wawa's, for Sheetz, whatever the case is, and he says, I want to put your lighters in these stores, I know it would work because they look the best. And then the last one is just a nightlife application, a nightlife optimization app that I'm still working on currently, called Snack Speed. It's a bit different from other ones just because it's more communal. But yeah, long story short, those are the 3 of them. But yeah, all different.
That's actually how I met Jordan outside the business building. I was on one of those spin bikes. And I was like, hey, what's up, bro? And then we somehow started talking about entrepreneurship, and then we were just like friends from there.
Exactly. And it was before our class too.
Yeah, it was before the class. It was like a year or something before it.
Yeah, it was way before our class. And
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah. It was way back. That was kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was real. We just had like a 20-minute conversation. I just met this dude randomly on the sidewalk. I was like,
and now look at us.
Yeah, I was doing our business as well.
Oh yeah.
So out of college now, where are you guys at? And obviously you're doing UniTru, but what other people really want to get to know about you? Like, what are your passions, your interests, things like that?
Eric, go ahead. I just rambled for like 10 minutes.
It's a good question. I guess
Eric's gonna say UniTru.
I was
That's real.
I was trying to think of what to say.
That's so real.
Someone told me I don't have any hobbies. I said, what do you mean I don't have any hobbies? They're like, all you do is try to think about ways to make money.
That's a hobby.
I
think it's a real thing. I mean, I think one thing that I'm like super passionate. I don't know if passionate is the right word, but when I was in college, like people would come, there'd be like speakers and whatnot, and they would kind of like, gas themselves up and stuff. And I never knew if they were telling the truth or not. So it's like, when I talk about this stuff, I always try and be as like transparent and honest as possible. So one thing in terms of like where I'm at, like I live at home, my parents support me. Right. And it's like, I'm grateful to have that opportunity, to be able to like pursue something like this. Like my mom was one of the people who like, I had a job offer out of college and my mom like begged me to not do it. She's like, start the business, like do the business. So it's like, I'm really grateful to have that opportunity. So in terms of like where in the world and where I am, that's where I'm at. In terms of hobbies, things that I like, I love sports. I love music a lot. I like making music. I like watching music. I like going to see live music. My dad's a big Deadhead and followed the Dead a lot growing up. And so he'll take me to different shows and whatnot. I like going to see shows with my friends. But when it comes to like UniTru, the thing is it gets all encompassing. Like it's hard to turn your brain off from it. Like, and when you have momentum and when things are going well, it's like a whole different beast. Like sometimes, listen, there's highs and lows, There was times it was like right before the winter break time of year last year. Like UniTru was not doing well. We didn't have much traction. We pretty much took like 2 weeks off. Like we were doing the bare minimums. We used to do lives every week. So we would do the lives. We would do like the bare minimum. You remember those?
Yeah, I remember the lives.
UniTru Inside Scoop Live, 3 p.m. every Sunday. I could do the pitch right now.
Yeah, it was every Sunday. I used to tune in.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah, you showing love.
That was our bread and butter. Like we're bread and butter and gravy, bro.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But it's like back then, it's like we were not doing well. It's like we like low-key took 2 weeks fully off. We did the live, and we did bare minimum posts on Instagram or whatever. But then there's also times like right now we're in this move where we're getting a lot, we're doing well, got a lot of momentum. It's like I'm working 24/7 pretty much. It's like I'm working, I wake up, I go to like this office that we're working out of, and then when I get home, I like can't fall asleep nowadays because my mind's just fucking thinking of like UniTru shit because I'm just having so much fun and so much energy, and like I'm around all these other founders, and then I go to sleep, and this doesn't happen every night, but literally like this is a true story. The other day, it was like Wednesday or something. I got to work. I worked until, whatever. I went to sleep, and I literally had a dream about UniTru, woke up and went back to working on UniTru. So it was like 24/7, just UniTru. And it's not, I don't want to give off the impression that
I dream about the business all the time.
Yeah, because it's on your mind, and it's like, it's not like that all the time. Like, I don't want to give off the impression that it's like I'm 24/7 working 24/7 on it. It's like, no, like there's times when you need to take some time, you need to recharge, you need to spend time with your family, you need to spend time with your friends. Like that stuff's really important. But like right now, absolutely in a mode where it's just like no hobbies, really just work, and that is the hobby, because I do like I'll be working. I'll be working and I'll just start like smiling and like kind of giggling to myself because I'm like, damn, I'm so blessed to that this is my day. Like I'm so grateful. So it's I don't know if that answers the question, but that's kind of
especially like your 20s, like that's the time where you can just work because you don't have like family necessarily, you don't have responsibilities, you don't have a bunch of responsibilities. So and then you'll be like in your 30s regretting like, dang, I wish I tried to chase my dream in college. I wish I tried to do it in my 20s. Now I can't really move. My family's set here. So it's like, right now is the time to do it.
And like, one thing on that, one thing specifically on that with like people like, I again, with the caveat of like, I'm blessed, my parents support me, I live at home. Not everyone has that opportunity. People have like bills they need to pay and all that kind of stuff, right? So with the caveat of that, but when people tell you, or people try and like, and like my whole life, my parents have always like told me I can do whatever I want, like always like push me towards shooting for the stars and all that. But there's people who don't have that. And when people tell you to like be realistic or to like get the job and don't take this big risk, keep in mind, if you have a dream and this is your dream, this is what you put your all into, right? And somebody tells you not to do it and to focus on something a little more safe, you are the one that's going to have to live the rest of your life regretting not taking the chance, not them. They'll forget about it in 30 minutes. Right. So like, yeah, sure. People are going to tell you like, be realistic and whatever. And they might not be they're not incorrect. Like, sure, it is more likely you'll fail. It is more likely that, but it's also more likely that you're going to reach your goal. Right. And they, like I said, they're going to be the ones, you're going to be the one living with the fact that you didn't go for it. The fact that you didn't shoot for the stars, the fact that you are, not living the life that you want to live. So don't like, take a risk. If you fail, you fail, whatever. You'll get some great experience. Like I've learned way more I would learn way more every week of UniTru than I learned in college and in total. Easy. So just do it. Don't listen to people. Like listen to yourself. Whatever you think is right, just do it.
Oh yeah, Jordan, tell us some about your hobbies.
Oh, but me, I mean, you're gonna hear a lot of the more similar things. So from my perspective, as I mentioned, I grew up internationally. Both of my parents are still living in Senegal, managing our hospitality business for the family and things like that. My sister lives in Ireland, and my brother was living in London before playing football. I'm done calling it soccer. He was playing football. Now he's playing here at D1 at Xavier University. And so everybody's all over the place, right? And so for me, in order to be in New York City the way that I am today, I needed to get a job, right? And ironically, it was actually my first job out of college. When I was applying to jobs and everything, like I had the companies on there, but I never did an internship. I never did any of that stuff. So that was a very big, let's say, transition for me as well, especially because I did it like right out of college. I was in New York 3 weeks after I graduated, and I started 4 weeks after I graduated. And so like first time working, etc. Like, and it was either I take a pause and like kind of debate, okay, like when Eric and I started having the conversation, with me knowing that I was leaving him, etc., it was like it's either I'm like still doing my 40-hour work weeks and still all in on UniTru, or I take a step back and blah blah. And I was like, as Eric said, like I'm the only one who would have regretted if I was like, oh, let me just focus on work because maybe it's too overwhelming. No, figure it the fuck out, right? Like if this is what you want, figure it out. Because if you don't figure it out, and even if at least try to figure it out, right? Because even if you don't, it's never going to be perfect. There's no way that the cards are always going to align every single time that you're going to try to attack something on as well. And it doesn't matter what happens to you, to be honest. It matters how you react to what happens to you. And I can't stress that enough. Everybody's life fucking sucks, and everybody's life is also great at the same time, right? So it's like just focus on you, focus on what you can do, focus on the things that you can control. And I'll tell you right now, if you told Eric and I when we first started UniTru, or when I was when both of us were leaving Penn State, that in a year and some change that we'd be where we are today, we'd actually call you drunk, right? But it's like it's just the hard work and dedication day in and day out. And as Eric mentioned, you learn more every single day doing this than you do in a classroom. Even if you're in a classroom studying entrepreneurship, right? Because all of that is just concept, all of that is just theory, all of that is just teaching. Doing is so different. So whatever the idea is, and as you guys saw, like the businesses that I just described to you guys before, they're all over the place, right? But they're all a part of me. The being third culture, the snag and lighters, right? Snack speed, and the fact that I don't like to wait for drinks. I don't like to wait in a line. I don't like to wait for those things. And UniTru, already we explained throughout this entire podcast, like figure out what you love. As you mentioned, Loco, like the whole drop shipping, this, that, and the third, like all of that is like, bro, so finding your actual passion, and also no knockoff. Like there's probably people making billions of dollars doing drop shipping, whatever the case is. Like I'm not yucking your yum, right? But like when you have that passion, don't let anybody tell you otherwise, man. I had somebody in my business. I had somebody in my business fraternity. Her father like works with entrepreneurs and things like that, etc. And I remember I explained to him like the various businesses that I had, and that I was working on or working with, and then he was like, his advice to me was, "You're doing too much. Pick one. I'll pick third culture and run with it." Imagine I took his advice because I thought he knew more than me. So yeah.
That's a great point. Like you obviously, I don't know. I think it's pretty obvious, but sometimes you gotta tell people is like, obviously, your life, your business way better than somebody else does. Your relationships, your partnerships. If you're the one that's in those, so like that's very, very strong. I wanted to ask too, and you kind of mentioned this a little bit, but about not being sure where you'd be like in a year and a half, and just like how explosive the growth was. But what kind of growth, both like tangible within the company and like idea wise, have you seen? Because even like me and Kane can speak to this. Like your just idea of like the stuff that you want to do, you become your vision gets more narrow, and your idea becomes more polished and clean. So if you guys could talk about like the evolution that you see in the business, or like some of the future site stuff that you guys really hope for.
Eric, let me start this one and I'll let you finish it off. I'll talk about the concept of UniTru schools when we first had the idea, and then it just being selling bulk tours to school, and then it having the whole customer discovery side, panel side, etc., etc. So I'll start off with just like the first half of it. When Eric and I, during that time period that he was talking about, where things were starting to be a little slow in terms of like the amount of effort that we were putting in to getting a B2C customer and what it was producing, it just wasn't enough, right? It wasn't scalable. And so that's when I think we just naturally started talking about it. We had brought up the concept of like UniTru schools, right? Where the B2B, why not start working with high schools in order to have them provide our tours to their students. And at first, if I remember correctly, our focus was even going towards international, right? But then with international, it's so much more difficult because we can cold call people in the US because there's the tools and the access in order to like find phone numbers and things like that, and etc. And so even that pivot was a very quick one. But I remember when we first had the idea of doing UniTru schools, and it was something where you guys, when you're brainstorming, you probably have so many different ideas. We're like, oh, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this. And then it was just something we said out loud, right? But we never knew that it would pivotally change the business today. And so at first it was just purely selling a bulk amount of deals to schools for them to be able to use it. And then Eric, you can keep going.
Yeah, well, so it like I was saying before, it was a lot of just talking to schools for a while, And then as we were having those discussions, counselors would start being like, so like, is this like, have you built this? Is this like, can we buy it? And that's always a good sign when people are asking if they can buy it. And so that just started happening more and more. And so we would like on the fly, just kind of be like, okay, counselors are asking for it that night. We'd be like, all right, what do we want our pricing to be? What do we want the packages to be? And just kind of building things as people ask for them. And so we've just been expanding since then. We're at 7 different high schools now. We have 4 independent educational consultants all across the country. So we got people in, there's people in San Francisco or in LA, in New York, in Austin, and in Oregon. Like literally on Wednesday, I'm going to be with one of our customers out in Oregon, and and then go to Boston. We're going to concerts with our counselors and stuff they're people are all over now. And so it's a thing, like I was saying before, it's like, I want to be so transparent about everything. Like we've definitely been growing, and over the last 6 months, I mean, pretty much all of those schools and stuff closed over the last 6 months. And so we've been growing, but at the same time, there's a long way to go, right? There's a long way to go. We have big dreams. And I would actually disagree a little bit with Jordan when he said, as I said before, we don't always agree, when he said that if you asked us a year ago or told us a year ago where we would be now, we would call you drunk. Because I don't agree with that. Because for me, like every morning, when I'm in my shower, I'm like, I would like, it's the confidence. You have to have delusional confidence in yourself. Like you have to be so delusionally confident that you are going to succeed that you will not believe anybody who tells you differently, because everybody is always telling you differently. And I think Jordan, you might have been talking about like specific metrics maybe, but when it comes to like the general, like maybe I wouldn't have guessed the exact numbers, right? But when it comes to like, if you had asked us at any point in this entire journey, since Jordan and I met, if we were going to be successful, we would both say yes without even blinking. And that's what it is that we have, because we know it's a problem, and we know we believe in ourselves as a team and the rest of our team as well. All those people I mentioned before, and Gabe and Maimuna, who are the new team members coming on now. Like we just believe in this, and we know we can succeed, and we know that we'll never, if you don't quit, you can't fail, right? And we're not quitting. So we know it's going to be successful. And in terms of future growth, like we're looking to, we want to help, like I said before, we want to help every student in the world. Right. And it's gonna be a journey, and we're gonna do it different ways. But 50 schools by the end of the year, maybe. Like I don't know the exact numbers or exact we have our goals written out specifically, but it's just it's exponential, right? It's exponential. And so it's gonna be what I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt is this time next year, we're gonna be an entirely different stratosphere. Like it's going to be a different situation.
And so that's the point that I'm trying to make, and I'm glad Eric disagreed with me, because I'm not talking about our ability to succeed, right? I knew it was going to be successful. I knew there was going to be the hardships, but I knew we were going to have success. But it's just like that exponential growth that Eric is talking about, right? Like we have our metrics, our numbers, what we hope for next year. We could either completely fuck that up, and then like it's just not where it was. But it could also 10x what we think that it could be, right? Like we just don't know. But that's also the beauty of it. That's what's so exciting. It's like you don't know. Like you don't know what can happen. All you have to do is do the things, do the deliverables that you have every single day, in order to get to where you need to be, and then the rest, just pray. Just pray and
just pray. That's what I love most about entrepreneurship. Like it's all in your hands, and you never know like if this video is going to blow up, or you meet this right person that knows this other person that connects you. Like it's kind of like that meme. I don't know if you guys seen where the guy's like digging for the diamonds, and the one guy just missed it, and the other guy hit it. It's just doing that like back and forth. Like people told me, because we were like a CA major or whatever, I couldn't get into like investing like banking and stuff. They do like banking like that and run my business at the same time. But I was telling them I can't. You just have to prioritize what you want to do. And it's like even just reading a couple of books recently, it's just like recognizing those little habits that might be distracting you and during your day, or doom scrolling on your phone. You could be doing customer discovery, or you could be doing cold calls, or just doing things that you don't even know with your time, because so many things are stealing our time for us. And that's what I love about you guys. Like when I met you guys in the class, I knew you guys were both motivated. I knew you guys were both actually going to like run their business, because not everybody in the class seemed really motivated about their business. They seemed like they were just there to be there. But a few selected us, like I knew, I was like, yeah, well, these guys are really going to be successful. And just believe in you guys, and proud to see all the success you guys had. If there's any last comments before we end this podcast, you guys want to let the people know? Or any advice for like the young people who want to start a business?
We got to shut up.
I think you got to do it to do it. Start a business, even if it doesn't matter what the business is, whatever you're passionate about, start a business. You're going to learn more from trying something than from being in a classroom. I learned that the hard way. I waited too long to start something. Start something as soon as possible. Another thing I would say is anytime someone gives you advice, listen to them, but keep in mind that that's one person's advice. It's one data point, right? So no one person knows the right solution to anything. So ask as many people as you can, weigh the different pieces of advice, and then go with what your gut tells you. Definitely, if you can't quit, if you don't quit, you can't fail. Like internalize that, like find something you truly want to believe and like believe in yourself that it will happen and do it. And then I guess the last thing, I was actually thinking about this like today, or not today, maybe it was yesterday, but entrepreneurship is not sexy. And like, this is something people talk about, but it's true. Like entrepreneurship is not sexy for a while. And like, UniTru has got some nice traction going right now, but we still have a long ways from where we want to be. Like our goals are set very high, right? So there's we have a lot of work to do, right? But like in the early days, in the super early days when we were still in school or like 6 months after school, it's like it was nothing, right? It was like us kind of trying what we can do and working a lot, but it wasn't much, right? And I feel like there's this misconception that the successful businesses always, and I'm just speaking from my personal experience, but that there's the successful businesses there's a different type of feeling the whole time, right? That like in the beginning, it feels good. In the middle, it feels good. Then your success, boom. It's like, no, like every business is hard and shitty in the beginning, right? I think this is an assumption to an extent because I only have UniTru, right? But like it's everything could change for you in a day. Everything could change for you in a day. One cold call changed everything for us when we got our first school, and that really changed everything. So like literally the digging for diamonds meme, like everything could change in a day, and it could be shitty every day until that day, and then everything could be amazing afterwards. So if everything is not sunshine and rainbows, don't take that as a sign that you have a bad idea. Just take that as a sign that you got to keep pushing, keep working, try different things, keep trying. And then when people tell you that, like when you're getting feedback that something's working, just dig into that. Like for us, it was cold calls. Just like dig into it, go all in on it, and have fun. Definitely have fun.
Yeah, I'm not going to double down on anything that Eric said because I think everything he said was extremely powerful. On the last point on doubling down, like milk the strategies that work for all the money that they're worth, right? And then you keep going, right? If you have something that works and you're like, okay, let me figure out how to automatically make it better. Like, no, just continue to focus on that and everything that you're going to learn from it, and then make it better, and then continue to move it when you start to see that it's starting to get a bit stagnant. But the one thing that I would add to what Eric said is truly understand your why. Like it's literally giving me goosebumps just thinking about it because I know my why, right? And I'm very aligned with what my why is. And I think everybody's why is extremely personal. And again, as I'm always going to say, like this is from me, right? I like, if you don't agree with me, you don't agree with me, but money is not enough. Right. If you really like, money is genuinely not enough. If you really want to build something and you're just chasing, if it's money that you're chasing, then the decisions that you're going to make are going to be too based off of money. Every single decision that Eric and I have made to date about UniTru as a product, UniTru as a service, UniTru as the delivery of it has always been based off of, is it going to help the counselors or is it going to help the students? Those are the two people, like those are our stakeholders, right? And then as a caveat, the kids as parents as well, naturally, because they're their parents. So understanding your why is so important. And just like, whether it's impact as well, whether it's trying to, like Eric and I know one of the most passionate people that you'll ever meet about the environment. And she does everything in her life for free. Everything. She's at every single event. She's fighting for the mission that she believes in. And that's like, you can see it, you can believe it. And because a lot of times, like, investors invest into founders, they invest into people, right? It's not necessarily the vision in itself. So that's one of my biggest advices is understand the why, because the why is going to be the anchor that it's going to be the anchor that keeps you grounded, but it will also be the motivation that keeps you going as well, understanding that why. So yeah, that'd be my last note.
And if you don't want to do something, just count down from 3 and then just do it.
Yeah, procrastination. No, thank you, Jordan and Eric, especially Jordan, because like that why is really that's what's going to keep you pushing when you got off of work late and you have to go, go edit some posts. Like I wanted to quit doing Loco. I wanted to quit doing like so many things, like so many different times. But just like the passion of running own my own business and just doing what I like helping other people, motivating people is what keeps me going. And even Xavier, like me and ourselves, like we had a brand and we realized what we could do better. And we're actually like preparing for like a shift, like a whole new. So you'll see like a whole new Loco life.
Yeah.
Great.
And we pivoted in because we did some more customer discovery and we were doing like,
Even knowing yourself.
we had a thing. We had a Loco life. It was kind of it was very broad. So it was like we were trying to like a broad niche of people instead of like certain that we're leveling to. And we wouldn't have noticed that if we didn't try doing our business for the last 2 years that we did. Like we made money and stuff, but like if we didn't try it, we wouldn't have had a better idea. And just like what you guys did from customer to customer to customer to B2B, things like that. So yes, thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming on. Everyone, continue to live your Loco dreams, man. These two guys are living their Loco dreams. Like you see, they're doing every day what they love most and what they're crazy about. And you see Eric and Jordan are both crazy about UniTru. They're both crazy about helping people.